And this is what I want you to really take away from this program. Howie Roseman is essentially Kobe Bryant. And I say that with all due respect. Kobe, he would be up and he'd be working his ass off in the gym. He would be preparing to execute 24/7. He was always willing to put everything out there for his sport. He loved it. He was determined to be the best version of Kobe Bryant every time he put on those basketball shoes. Same applies to Howie. Howie Roseman has that same exact killer mentality, but he has it in a GM view. And unfortunately, due to where some of these contracts were, and unfortunately due to how much people are getting paid in free agency and the way the money is going through the roof, you have to make some tough, difficult decisions when still trying to be a top of the NFC type team in this upcoming year. And you still have to factor in what Jalen Carter's contract is going to look like, what Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, what those guys are going to get paid, Nolan Smith as well. And before you say, well, Brodes, they still have years until then. No. You get it done way in advance. You get it done super early. If not, you get yourself in trouble. You need to think about that now. You have to make decisions in free agency knowing where this money is going and how much guys are getting paid. You have to think about that now. But knowing that, Howie Roseman is still going to field a team that is going to be extremely competitive and at the top of the NFC. That is the truth. I'm not saying the number one overall seed in the NFC. I'm saying when you think about the best teams in this conference that are fighting for a Super Bowl, that are going after a Lombardi trophy, they are going to be in the mix with all the other top teams following a Super Bowl championship. Howie Roseman is on the prowl. Howie Roseman knows about all these decisions, and there's no reason to question what he is trying to do. There is a plan. There is a blueprint. Howie Roseman has a Kobe mentality where he is always going to prepare the best way possible. He's always going to try and put himself in the conversation as one of the best general managers in all of sports. That's how his drive works. You don't think he wants to go back-to-back? You don't think he wants to be put in the history books as one of the GMs that has 3 rings? That has 2 back-to-back? After people questioned what he was doing with CJGJ, after people questioned how he would shore up that defensive line when Josh Sweat and Milton Williams left, you really thought that Howie Roseman wasn't going to put something special together? Come on, man. There's no way in hell. So here's my question for you as we look at what Howie Roseman has done so far, which he did sign an all-pro linebacker, by the way. In a world where he doesn't like linebackers, he doesn't value linebackers, he would never spend money on linebackers, he just signed an all-pro to a hefty deal, by the way. Here's the question, 215-592-9494. Are you worried about what you've seen so far in the early stages of the legal tampering period, and now that we entered this new year today, and some of these signings became official? You lost Darius Slay. I'm not worried. I'm really not worried. There's never going to be a time where Howie mails it in. You think Howie Roseman mails it in? That's not a thing. Would Kobe ever mail it in? No, of course not. Howie Roseman attacks his job the same exact way Kobe Bryant attacked his. So maybe Kobe misses a jump shot. That doesn't mean Howie Roseman's going to go perfect in everything he does. Howie Roseman will miss a jump shot. But just in regards to the way his philosophy is, the way his mindset is, the way that he looks at his job and prepares for his off seasons, and the way that he goes about manipulating cap space, and the way he attacks his business, if you have the proper mind inside that head of yours, I mean, that's step one. And you'll miss jump shots, but you got to know that you have someone that is as capable as Howie Roseman. And when that's the case, you feel good when you're sleeping at night, putting your head down on your pillow, saying, this guy's the one in charge of my football team. And even when it looks unconventional, he's got something brewing. He let you know it was going to be unconventional. So bear with him. 215-592-9494. We are going to run to the phones, but first, I want you to take a listen to Adam Schefter, and this was on Adam Schefter's podcast, talking about the Philadelphia Eagles so far and sort of the way that they are looking at this offseason.
The Philadelphia Eagles are scheduled to have 20 draft picks in the next 2 years, Ty. 20 picks. Most teams in a given draft have 7. The Eagles have 20 the next 2 years, including 11 in the first 4 rounds of the next 2 years. 11 and 17 in the first 5 rounds of the next 2 years. You know what those picks do? Those picks give you a chance to bring in good young players on rookie contracts that allow you to pay the veteran superstars. So they're planning on these young players stepping in. And who has had a better drafting record than the Philadelphia Eagles? And by the way, it's probably going to turn into more once they lose Mekhi Becton. And who knows how they're going to manipulate the draft this year and potentially turn it into more picks next year or the year after. So this was, I think, part of the plan for them to move forward like this.
And that doesn't mean you're punting this season. You have the best offensive line in football. Even with the right guard situation, Mekhi Becton was a failure that you groomed into something awesome that now you can't miss. All right, Tyler Steen, maybe who you drafted CJ for. I'm not ruling out this offensive line still being the best in football with the hole there. So you still have AJ, Devontae, Saquon, Jalen Hurts. You still have Quinyon and Cooper DeJean and Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. And there's a lot of studs. Just because you may not be the number 1 overall defense, Zach Bond too, by the way, the best linebacker in football last season. You may not be the number 1 defense, but there are still ways where you can look at all the draft picks that you are setting yourself up with, knowing that some of these young kids already on your roster are going to get paydays, which means they being the draft picks you eventually take in the next few years, are going to be very nice numbers for your cap and under solid contracts for you to even everything out. This team is still going to be competing with the Lions, who lost their identity, by the way. See, you can do it where your offense in the passing game takes a step in the right direction. So maybe the defense takes a step back and is maybe 6th or 7th in the league. Maybe they're top 10 in the league instead of number 1. But the passing offense elevates, and now you move up in those rankings where it looks different. It's a different style, but you are still a top NFC contender. And that's what is going to happen. The Lions lost their identity. The Eagles still have Saquon. The Eagles still have their offensive line. That was their identity. They still have Coop and Jalen Carter. Those guys hit hard. Reed hits hard. Zach Bond hits hard. That's part of their identity. That didn't go anywhere. Ben Johnson was the Detroit Lions' identity. San Francisco's selling everybody. The Packers are fine. The Commanders are fine. This team's still right up there. And it's all really credit to what Howie Roseman has done in the past. And while this may not be the most explosive start in the world with an offseason here, I mean, I'm not panicking one bit. Not 1 ounce of me is hitting the panic button. 215-592-9494. How do you feel out there about Howie Roseman? Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Jacob in Kentucky. Yo, Jacob.
What's going on, Hunter?
What's happening, man?
Hey, I want to answer your question first, and I kind of want to get your point of view on what you've seen on Twitter and Eagles fandom. I mean, I'm with you completely. I trust Howie Roseman just because of his track record and his ability to keep the Eagles relevant. But from what I've seen, people are really, skeptical of the lack of signing our free agents and I mean, honestly, the biggest move that we had made was Zach Bond. So I feel like that was the biggest priority. And then beyond that, it was like if you can get a bargain for guys that want to stick in Philadelphia, take a hometown discount, that would be valuable. But how likely is that the case whenever somebody's got, like, look at Milton Williams? They were never going to re-sign Milton for that type of number. So I feel like people are just freaking out a little bit because of the lack of movement. But I mean, we just got to anticipate what they're going to do in the draft and, have expectations there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of fear because Howie mentioned that he's going to go with some young guys. But maybe we live in an era now where young guys can step in and play and be more effective than ever before. Quinyon Mitchell was just a lockdown number one corner on a Super Bowl winning team. Cooper DeJean got slotted in there, and once Avonte Maddox left, this was a whole entire new personality on the defense. So maybe we just live in an era where guys can step in, and maybe a few years back you wanted some of these secondary pieces to have a year under their belt and blah, 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 blah. But maybe there's truth to how Howie is looking at this. And to your point with Milton Williams and all, you made a mistake paying a ton of money to Bryce Huff, who you projected to take a big step and he never was able to. Maybe Howie goes, look at this market. Look at the money going to some of these solid players. They're getting paid like they're stars. I'm not making that same mistake again. Let me play this differently. And if that's the case, I co-sign that, Jacob.
Right. And then you go look at contracts like what's his name, Chase Young with New Orleans. He's making $17 million a year, $51 million over the span of 3 years. I just don't see, whenever it comes to Howie Roseman and how he approaches the free agency, especially like in this era where they've been so competitive, it seems like the veterans that they bring in, expecting to be the players that they were at their previous destination, those haven't really panned out. You see like Malik Jackson, or you've got what's his name? The Bears safety. I forget his name. Kevin Byard. So you bring that guy
Kevin
in.
Byard.
And you do these trades for like veterans that have been elite at their previous stops in a different system, and none of that works. But then you get these gems in the draft, and they kind of develop and become something that wasn't really expected. The only the free agents they brought in as veterans have been the budget guys that they've extended. I mean, Zach Bond's one, and then you go and you get like Hassan Reddick. He got a contract here. He didn't get extended, but that was essentially a value contract for what his production lended to, his off-season prospects and stuff. So I don't know. I think that there's a lot of defensive backs in this draft, a lot of talent in that department. There's a lot of edge draft. I feel like the needs that the Eagles have can be addressed in the draft, and
1,000%. Yeah. No, Jacob, I agree, and thank you so much. Here's another part to this, too. I promise you listening? I promise you, this is not the team that is starting off in September. This isn't even done. This isn't even close. We haven't even gotten started yet. Okay, so I understand you do react piece by piece. That's the nature of this business. It's the nature of the sports world. I'm not going to tell everybody, close your eyes, blindfold yourself, and never have an opinion on the process of seeing how a team is built, because that's unfair, and I like to react to some of these moves. But I think this one is pretty clear, cut, and dry, that Howie has so much more to do, and he's acknowledged that. If this was Dave Dombrowski, and he walked up to a podium and said, our team's good as is, I don't really have to do much more. We got a great, talented group. We've made runs in the past. We're just going to keep running this thing back because, well, the Dodgers lost for years until they eventually didn't, and that could be us one day. Now, that pisses me off. That makes me sick to my stomach. That's not where we are right now with Howie Roseman. He's made it very clear. There's a lot of work I got to do. There's a lot of things that I am going to make happen from now until the start of the season. Just remember, there's a lot more to the offseason than just the legal tampering. There's a lot more to the offseason than just the draft. We got a long ways to go, and his track record of being such a competitor and being so hungry to be the best GM in the sport, he's going to do many different things to put together a roster that's going to be competing at the top of the NFC again. And I don't think that there's a world where it's anything other than that. Let's go to Sharon in Glassboro. Hey, Sharon.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on? How are you?
Good. It's been a minute.
It has been a minute.
It's been a minute. I've been too busy. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Before football, I wanted to ask you, did you go to Rowan, Brodes?
I did, yes.
Me too, man.
Yeah. I loved it there. I had a great time. I went for my final 2 years. So I did my junior and senior year of college at Rowan.
We love it. I did my undergrad there, and I'm about to get my master's from there.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's awesome. Well, anyway, Rowan Pride.
That's
Besides
right.
that, I was instructed roughly a month ago to keep in touch heading into my first off season, so here I am.
Yeah, so, okay, since you are new at this, right, and new to this in the extreme emotional way that we all are, it's been on the quiet side. So you don't have any other offseason to judge the Howie Roseman experience. There's a reason why this is called Howie season, and there's a hashtag for it, but it's been a little quiet. So from your very new first go at an offseason as a diehard, you bleed green, how do you feel a few days in and seeing all the reaction?
It has definitely been really interesting to watch. As a first-time viewer of the off-season, and they're keeping me on my toes. I've learned quickly that I can't be too sentimental as a fan, so that's a good lesson to learn early. Now, none of this is revolutionary. Obviously, I'm new here. But I think what I've noticed is that in order for this particular team to have continued success at a high level, they need to switch it up, and they need to be adaptable. Because we don't look like these most successful teams in the last 25 years. You know, we don't look like the Tom Brady Patriots. We don't look like the Patrick Mahomes Chiefs. That's not what our dominance looked like this past season. We looked like team wins. We looked like everybody getting a slice of the pie, this real team football. And when that's how you dominate, I think that you can't keep that many key players. So in order for this team to continue that level of success, we need to be willing to switch it up. And it looks like that's the direction that this offseason is sort of taking so far, that, next season our offense might have to step up more because we had to lose some of our defense. We'll have to trust some young guys, maybe. We'll have to trust the drafting that Howie's going to do, that he's already done. And I feel like as of right now, I have more reasons than not to trust in that. We also can't forget, we've only just begun. We don't even know what Howie's plans are yet. He's barely begun. And we also have so much of our core talent from last season. So we also can't forget those things. And it's my take so far.
Yeah, no, listen, Sharon, I mean, you sound to me like a football woman who's been in the trenches since birth. So you seem like you know what you're kind of going for here. And thank you, Sharon. I appreciate the call. Yeah, maybe the offense does have to step up a little. And that's okay. I got faith in that. They look good in the NFC Championship game. They look good in the Super Bowl. Maybe there's something to that. All right? Maybe there's something to them feeling good about themselves, knowing they need to elevate, looking at things throughout the offseason, knowing this is going to be their structure. They are looking to have more ability in the passing game throughout the regular season. They are looking to start quicker so you don't have to deal with these first quarters where you're barely scoring any points and you're setting yourself up for an ugly start before the run game dominates, and that's how you're able to flourish later on in the action. Set the tone with that passing game early in the season. What you can't forget if you sit here and get nervous about Howie's lack of moves, A.J. Brown is one of the best wide receivers in football. So is Devontae Smith. They are still here. You still have the best offensive line in football. That's still here. You have the best running back in football. That's still here. You have a top premier linebacker. You have a number one shutdown corner. You have a Swiss Army knife guy in Cooper DeJean who can be very versatile in the role that he plays. Jalen Carter is literally the next Aaron Donald. That's what you are working with. And these cats are only getting better. You know, Cooper DeJean's only going to get better. Jalen Carter is still going to improve. He'll keep up his intensity longer. He'll be able to dominate. Remember, think about this. When he first started, he hit a wall. He hit a wall. That was the talking point. We got to get him to a point where he doesn't hit a wall. He did that. But there's still more ways to go. He could beat double teams more. He can get to the quarterback more. He can do more. So these guys can actually still get back. Quinyon Mitchell, you don't think Q's going to get better? I know you think there's probably not much room to get better than O'Grady. What? There is. There is. DeGene, there is. So these guys are still improving. There is a lot here. What you lost, Millen Williams is a solid NFL player. Josh Sweat is a starter in the NFL. He's not a game breaker. He's not a game wrecker. He had a big Super Bowl. But Josh Sweat is a starting defensive end. That's what he is. Milton Williams is a solid NFL player. That's what he is. CJ he's a good safety. It's telling that he's been on a lot of different teams in a lot of different years. So there's a lot to this. He's also someone who wore a very intense hoodie at the parade. And here's my guess. Jeffrey Lurie didn't like that. You know, people say, oh, it wasn't anything off the field. Let me ask you this. Do you think Jeffrey Lurie was proud that that was representing his Eagles organization that day? I'll tell you for free. There's no way in hell. So, yeah, some of the stuff off the field probably did have a role in them saying goodbye to CJ along with the Saints, along with the Eagles the first time, along with the Lions, and then we'll see how long he lasts in Houston. My guess is it's going to be a quick stint, too, unless they're willing to put up with the nonsense. But don't lose sight of what we have here. And also remember, it's funny how expectations right now for the team is all over the place. A lot of us thought last year's defense on paper was just going to be okay. They were the number one defense. You thought they were going to be okay, number one. So if they put together a defense that you feel is going to be okay, they can definitely oversee those expectations. Doesn't mean they'll be the best team in the NFL on the defensive side. But I do think that there's truth to, you know, them being better than what we think just by deeming what they have on the paper, if you will. All right, let's go to Mike in Marlton. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how's it going, Brodes?
Good, man. What's up?
I mean, I wouldn't say concerned is the word. I'm having, I guess, a little trouble finding it. But I would definitely say that even worried is a little strong, but you get the point about the defense. I definitely think that we need an edge rusher to, you know, help lighten things up for Jalen Carter. You know, I don't know if it's going to be like a superstar. I really like Trey Hendrickson, but I feel like the Bengals are just insane because they are asking for way too much and they just don't know how to run a front office whatsoever. I heard that the T. Higgins, not that we want T. Higgins, but the T. Higgins price is apparently crazy. And I wouldn't put it past them for Trey Hendrickson for them to try and do something crazy for him as well. But I know Howie's a master class when it comes to trades. I really think that it's slim pickings with free agency right now. I don't know if there's any corners that we could sign, but I'd really like to get another corner on the team as well that's not going to be a rookie. I'm just not used to having so much young talent, I guess, and it's hard to. I wouldn't even. It's a little hard to believe in guys because I'm so not used to having so much young talent, and you know, I mean, but honestly, and I'm being a little pessimistic in the sense of like if you look at AJ Boye, for example, who played out of his mind for the Jaguars. He got a huge contract. I don't think the same thing's going to happen with Zach Bond, but, like, people need to think that, you know, that could happen. You know what I mean? Like, there is room for regression.
Sure. So, is he going to be the best linebacker in football next year? No, but do I think he's going to be in the conversation of the top 4 linebackers in the league? Yeah, I think so. And I'm basing this off of what we've learned about Zach Bond over this year. He does seem to be someone who has a really good head on his shoulders where, for example, if CJ had one magical year and his personnel, I'd say, hey, listen, I don't know. I don't know. He may be cool with the bag, and then he's just going to do whatever the hell he feels like doing. But Zach Bond seems to be the same way Saquon is, the same way Jalen is, the same way Q is. He seems to just have a really strong mindset with this. So I'm going to bank on that. I think that went into their equation. I don't think they signed him because he had a good year. I think they know his personality as an athlete.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I think Vic Fangio is a really talented coach that's probably just had, lackluster talent throughout his career. I'm not taking any shots at his teams. Like, I'm sure he's had some very talented players, but I think that he gets the best out of these guys and our coaching. I trust our offensive line coach as well. I think that Green, I've seen him in games this year, actually. Like, I watched him play. I'm not just saying that. And he had some good blocks. I didn't get to, watch him all the time. And then also, think about this. Next year, without CJ being there, Quignon's going to get a couple more picks without him ball hawking, taking them away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, no doubt about it. There were a few. There were probably two. And Mike's, thank you. I can't thank you enough for calling in. Yeah, I know for sure there's two. As I close my eyes right now, I see them. We're here, CJ running 15 or maybe even 70 yards to the right. Doesn't even make sense. But you get my point. Just to go snag the ball from Quinyon Mitchell. You're damn right. You're damn right. All right, 215-592-9494. There is no reason to panic when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles and Howie Roseman's offseason. I think Howie Roseman is like Kobe Bryant. You never have to question Kobe's work ethic. You never have to question Kobe's preparation, his determination. He may miss a couple jump shots. That's the nature of the sport. Howie Roseman may miss a couple things here and there throughout. That's the nature of being a GM. But you never have to question his the way he prepares and his preparation. You never have to question his determination, his game planning, all that stuff. He may miss a couple jump shots, but in regards to putting together a team, this guy is one of one. And you got to let him have time to cook. 215-592-9494. Coming up next, we'll talk about a little addition that was made earlier today in the running back room. It's Brodes, it's you. We're just getting started on 94 WIP.